Let's take a look at the infinite possibilities of the UniFan SL-INF 140 reverse blade fan. Let's get right into it. First, a little bit of spec information about this fan. 25 millimeters thick, fluid dynamic varying, its amperage, RPM range, and it's got a 2-year warranty. And this is a little diagram that they have listed on their website about how the fan overall is kind of built on the inside, which I thought is kind of interesting. So it comes with this little adapter, and you would plug in the second fan into this, and it's got these little feet, well, 1.5 handed, and they pop out something like that, and you can see how the feet are. There we are. And so you can put them back in, and then they just kind of twist into place, something like that, so that the fans can interconnect with each other. And on the other side, you got these little slots, and right here you have these pogo pins. Oh, you got this little adapter right here. Make sure you line it up in the correct direction. It's got large pinned pads, and you pot it on, and you slide it forward. And now that is locked into place. And then you have your standard RGB cable and your 4-pin adapter. We're going to take this off while we take a look at the fan itself. So we'll take a look at the RGB in a second, but it's got, the infinity mirror, have some RGB ring here. Not sure if there'll be any in there, but this is brushed metal. It looks very nice. They could do a better job integrating these cables, make them a little bit more hidden away. But the struts are pretty narrow, so it may not have fit, which is why they put it sideways. But this does mean that it obstructs airflow. And keep in mind, this is a reverse blade fan. So right now, this is the intake side of the fan. So the air comes in here. So right now, these struts actually obstruct airflow coming into the blades, which is one of the reasons why reverse blade fans are considered lower performance, because the struts reduce the amount of surface area that the fan has as intake, while not actually reducing any noise, because the fan blades still rush past these struts, and that's where the noise comes in. Just noise profiles may be a little bit different, and we'll have seen from the testing how the performance actually is. Now, this will be the pretty side of the fan, and this will be the side that's kind of, in your case, facing up, so airflow this way, or airflow now coming towards it. And for reverse blade, it looks excellent this way. You get the RGB effect, it's the pretty side of the fan, and, well, that's what may matter to you. When we compare it to just a regular fan, I don't have one on hand right now. It allows you to have a uniform series of fans, similar type performance, have similar visual appearance. Reverse blade fans, I think, look pretty cool. Certainly it looks better than, staring at the struts, but it'll be up to you to decide if the performance differences are worth it for the visual improvement. In terms of the actual design, the gaps between the frame and the edge actually aren't too bad. They're pretty good. The blade design is kind of that hybridish. We see everything. They're definitely more pressure oriented. The blades are very wide. The white background of my wall is making it very difficult. I'm testing out filming in a different way. They're very wide at the tip and arc into the middle. So definitely pressure oriented. They almost overlap each other. But there's no special features on the blades themselves. It's basically RGB first, performance second. This is the RGB illumination effect on the Infinity reverse blade fan. So right now the air is blowing towards me. It does have this nice infinity mirror effect. And if we doing this one-handed, I only have it at 50%, but it would still gouge my finger. And this is the back. So this would be the quote-unquote ugly side, and would be what's facing down. So you can see my case fans like this. This is in essence what you would see inside a case like this. So it does create a very pretty effect. And we saw the data for its actual performance. Certainly has plenty of LED RGB lights in there, and it has this wonderful ring effect. But the piece de resistance for me is the infinity mirror. It's why I think that this is the prettiest fan in terms of RG on the market, but it is up for you to decide. So the first test in my series of tests is the case simulation test. It can be looked at a couple key different ways, but you first and foremost is where to put these in your computer case. Now this is most applicable towards if you're going to use this with an air cooler or an air-cooled GPU. It is a little bit less applicable if you're going to go with water cooling. So the first and foremost is the 6-inch mark. This is your small form factor cases, front to back airflow, mini ITX. Again, key factors, front to back airflow type design. Not many of them exist. The second way it can be used is in a short throw distance, so that would be putting fans in the bottom of your computer case blowing up towards your GPU. The 6-inch mark would be very applicable towards that. Then you've got the 9-inch mark. This would be compact towers. Think a case that can still hold a standard ATX motherboard, but not a lot of extra room in that front, so the GPU would be about the same length as that motherboard. Then you have the 11-inch mark. This would be your standard mid towers, 320mm class fans. And then we have the 14.5-inch mark. This would be a truly large tower, something like the Fractal Design Torrent, and approximately 340mm class fans. Moving on to 11 decibels noise normalized results. And we need something to compare to, and that is where my control fan comes in. It is base 3 parts A12X5 to 1 part A14 to create a baseline analysis. So fans that rank over top of it, I consider it to be very good to excellent. Fans that rank underneath it doesn't mean they're necessarily bad, but they wouldn't rank the best overall. So the Infinity reverse blade is underperforming compared to the regular edition. It is just not able to move the same amount of air at that same noise value. At 100% PW fan signaling, we see that the reverse blade is actually moving a little bit more air, but if we take a look over here on the key, it is noisier than the regular edition. So that is a little bit of a downside with this fan. Comparing against other fans that are ranked very well in my testing, it is just pretty greatly underperforming compared to many of the other ones. Mind on this graph, I don't have any other reverse blade fans, simply because I wanted to show off what fans actually rank really well. And when we compare it against in a bar graph form at the 11 decibel mark, we can see that it's ranked pretty low, and all things considered. And this is how the average was calculated. Now, cranking things up, this is a new graph. I have a new 18 decibel mark, so it's just a little bit higher noise normalized value. Does it rank any better among these other fans? And it really doesn't. It's still ranked really rather low. So I'd like to see more improvement in kind of the performance there to really get a recommendation going. And when we compare it against other fans, pretty similarly. So there is a reverse blade on here, the SWAFan EX14 reverse, and it does a little bit better than it. Mind, it is, well, not a top performer fan to begin with, because here's the regular EX. So this is kind of where my note is, like, just because a fan isn't a top performer doesn't mean it's not gonna work in your computer case. You just have to choose what is most important towards you. This is an appearance first fan as opposed to a performance first fan. So once again, taking a look at the airspeed through the case at 100% PW fan signaling, it is a bottom performer at all measurement locations. And again, you want to focus in on the measurement location that is most applicable to the type of case that you plan on buying or you already own that you're building your computer into for that size factor. Now I have a set of new bar graphs, and they're normalized off of RPM. So 800 RPM, that should say 140 millimeter. I do apologize. These are all 140 millimeter class fans. But the UniFan SL-INF reverse blade isn't at the very bottom of this graph. It's bottom, middle-ish. It's doing kind of better than the regular in terms of moving more air. However, it's also noisier. So again, you got to pick and choose what's the most important to you, especially given the RPM that we've listed. So then at 1500 RPM, how do these fans rank? Well, here is the UniFan Infinity reverse blade. It is once again beating out its brethren. That is the normal airflow pattern. I don't know what you want to call it. But it is once again significantly noisier, but it is moving a little bit more air, so it's up to you to decide what is most important to you. And when we're taking a look at it, I like to have airspeed versus decibels, so you get a good idea of across what
RPM range. So this would be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100% pitot fan signaling, and various noise levels. So you can see how noisy it is across its entire range. And it is pretty significantly underperforming compared to most other fans. The UniFan Infinity regular edition is sitting right here, so it is significantly quieter. It's also moving less air, ironically. I don't have an exact reason why it's moving less air. It's one thing I'm going to look into, and just I'll have a follow-up piece if I find that there's an error in the analysis, meaning my anemometer for some reason is misreading things. Otherwise, we're going with this. Again, every time I test, I do multiple passes, so it's not an error with regard to that. It would be something going on with the anemometer. I just would need to double check it. Just didn't get it in time for publishing this video, but I'm fairly confident that it's reading what it should be reading, because everything else, all the other fans that I've tested, look in line. Anyways, this is taking a look at the same thing, but this time in Zone. Zone is just a different way of taking a look at noise levels. I have a whole piece on my channel about Zone versus decibels, and ended up doing a blend of both. So Zone really exaggerates higher noise levels and pulls them off to the right side here, showing that as you increase noise levels in decibels, every 10 decibels is a doubling in noise volume. And decibels kind of hides it, compacts it, while Zone stretches out the noise levels, showing you truly how different a noise level can be.
UniFan SL Infinity Reverse. UniFan SL Infinity Reverse and Pull.
Next, we're taking a look at performance of my CPU air cooler, the Noctua U12A. I've also started incorporating testing for a radiator. That is the Black Ice Nemesis 140 GTX. And we have the control fan, and we have the UniFan SL Infinity regular edition. So here on the left side, it is basically a blade efficiency graph. It is airspeed versus RPM, so how much movement of air do you get at a given RPM. And the reverse blade is doing a little bit better than the regular edition Infinity, and they're doing a little bit better than my control fan. But when we take a look at noise values, is where it kind of falls apart a little bit. So neither of them really quite compete with my control fan. Mind, the regular edition Infinity gets significantly closer, but the reverse blade is just too noisy. Now, it is possible that I have a bad sample. There's not much I can do about that, unfortunately. Next, this is another new graph. This is comparing the data results I got for only this fan, the reverse blade, going through my U12A and my Nemesis radiator. I would love to add thermal data in the future, but unfortunately this channel doesn't have the income to have a dedicated test system for it. So I just can't generate thermal data, because I'd have to rip apart my gaming desktop every single time I want to do testing. But you can see that they correspond with each other very closely. So for right now, I can call performance through the U12A and the Nemesis radiator equivalent. Even though it's not quite exactly, but it's pretty darn close. Anyways, noise normalized through the air cooler of the U12A, and the blue lines represent the 11 decibel mark, the red lines represent the 18 decibel mark, and the reverse blade is ranked really poorly. They are ranked and scaled off of the 11 decibel mark because, well, I personally consider silence more important. So that's why I scaled it that way. But you guys still get the values and the data marks for that higher decibel reading. So they do jump around a little bit. And with the new graphs, we also get normalized to that particular RPM, so 800 RPM. The ranking is calculated based off 3 parts airspeed performance and 1 part noise performance. So the noisier the fan is, the worse it will rank, even if its airspeed is higher, to some extent with scaling it. So the reverse blade Infinity is kind of middle of the pack. It's doing a little bit better than the regular Infinity, ironically, but you can see how they kind of scale here amongst it, with the top performer being the Tough Fan 14 Pro. And when we crank things up to 1500 RPM, the UniFan AL140 V2 is the top ranked fan, with the Tough Fan 14 Pro ranked in second place here. The Infinity reverse blade is ranked fairly well overall. I'm rather surprised by that, with the regular one ranked significantly lower. Mind, these are a far cry from being the worst fans ever tested. At 100% PDOM fan signaling, RPM does matter, and its limited RPM is a little bit of a problem with these fans. It just can't crank it as well, so they're very pretty. They would work potentially well enough in a pull configuration on a radiator, but you're not getting the peak performance. But if you have a custom loop with multiple radiators, it may not matter very much, and you may be after that aesthetic more than raw performance. You know, it's up to you to decide how you want to use your fans and your computer. Taking a look at decibels versus air speed going through it, well, the reverse blade is, again, towards the bottom of the graph. There are just other fans that are significantly better than it. Again, the placement doesn't necessarily mean that it's really bad, because it's relatively close to these top performing group, but it's just not as good. And that's what I want to, I guess, I'm reiterating. There are better options out there. When we take a look at the same thing in zone, you get to see how it kind of stretches off to the side. I'll hold it for a couple more seconds. All right, the last set of tests is CFM testing. It's my least favorite type of test, basically because it's a scientific exercise. For most users, you care more about how the air flows into your case or how it performs through a cooler than you do about CFM. CFM would be if you're thinking of your case like a heat exchanger. So multiple radiators, or you have a big radiator at the top and the bottom, and you're just trying to figure out how much air you're cycling in and out of your case. But anybody who says that high CFM good for case doesn't know what they're talking about. If you're talking about true airflow inside of a computer case. I have a background in computational fluid dynamics. This is the thing that I do. And directed airflow is what you want when you're taking a look at how good a fan is in computer cases. Now that I finished ranting, CFM versus RPM, the control fan outperforms both these two fans pretty significantly in terms of its blade design. When we get to the noise results, well, ironically, the Infinity regular beats out my control fan ever so slightly, while the reverse blade is significantly worse. How do they rank? Noise normalized values at for the red 18 decibels and for the blue 11 decibels. So the reverse blade is towards the bottom. There are better options out there. The Infinity regular edition is even worse towards the bottom, and they are among the worst performers here. There are just many better options if you're looking for that airflow exchange. At 100% PWM fan signaling, again, RPM does matter. And even among other 1,500 RPM fans, there are other ones that are significantly better than these. Same sort of graph. Decibels versus CFM. It's noisy. Let's move on. Now we're on to a value proposition. Value is just how much performance do you get per dollar. It's not how good is the fan in reality. And it doesn't include things like longevity of the bearing, brand reliability, brand reputation, RGB appearance. It's just based off of performance, simplifying the view. So if there are other aspects of the fan that you're interested in trying to in making your decision, I guess you're gonna have to look at other parts of the video. And another note, it's like I just want to reiterate again, value proposition is not actual performance. It is a factor in making that raw performance. But a fan can rank really well and be complete trash in terms of its airflow, because if the fan is cheap enough and the airflow is sufficient enough, it can rank really well. But luckily, the P14 Max is actually a pretty good fan, or very good fan, so it ranks really well, and it's very inexpensive. So back to the Infinity, it isn't ranked very well. It's a very expensive fan for how much air it's moving at both the 6 and the 11-inch marks and my noise normalized values. How about in terms of CFM testing? Well, it's ranked among the worst. Pretty much dead last. So let's just move on. And through the CPU air cooler, there are just better options out there. I recommend you go with them. If you're looking for performance, visual appearance is something else, and that's something I can't make that decision for you. I think it's a very pretty fan, but if you're looking for performance, yeah. And at the end of every video, I do like to show off my raw data. This raw data does belong to me. If you wish to use it for your own personal use, you may go ahead and do so. But if you're going to put in any sort of video, written, publication, journal, I do ask that you reference me and my channel, because it is my hard work that, well, generates this data. Right now, just disclaimer piece, this channel is completely unfunded. If you like what I'm doing, I ask that you think about joining me as a Patreon or YouTube member. I know it's a hard thing to ask people for money to make these videos, but if you like what I'm doing, that does go a long way in making it possible for me to purchase, well, fans and the test equipment that I've actually received comments for that you all want me to add. But just smashing that subscribe button really does go a long way in helping this channel grow, to get more traction, to sort of generate that kind of thing. Other than that, if you've got suggestions for fans you would like me to take a look at, please leave in the comment section below. I'll see what I can do. And if you've got suggestions for ways that I can improve these videos, I'm always iterating and trying to improve them. And a lot of these additional measurement spots were viewer suggestions. So, with that, thank you very much for watching Computer Ec and More, and I hope you have a great day.